this isn't one of my good nights, but it's honest, and I smoke, I drink, I puff. But I made a commitment that we is more important than me. I'll get to that later. It has to do with a interview Michael Jackson had back in the 70s, right around the time I was born. Drinking my brew, it's not the right brew, but it's built into the code. Not that it's not necessarily the wrong brew either, because there's time and place, and you can't get to here from there without going the distance. Unless you get there. And then you can go anywhere. Anyhow, anyway, any which way. Which? White chi. White key. The light. The key, the prana. It's not like I know this stuff, but I've absorbed this stuff. I didn't make this. I'm trying to learn this, even now, in my darkness. Death is not the worst of all evils. Seek heaven first. I can't remember the quote, but if you seek life, you'll find death. If you seek death, you'll find life. Heaven, death. Drinking my brew. Key. Brew. My understanding is that just as in H, the ch is built into the H. In Hebrew, H has a ch to it, which has to do with the whole idea of pronunciation and how when babies are little kids, they're sounding. And I guess that accentuates the difference between sounding and tuning. But sounding is your pinging, your Marco Polo. You ever play that game in the pool? Marco Polo. When you're a little baby, you're sounding. Little babies, they express every sound, but they hone in, depending on their culture, on the sounds of their culture. Culture being the body of people and the body of knowledge, which relates to the sound, which relates to the culture, as in the fermentation, as in the gut microbiota. So in some sense, the foods our cultures eat affects the culture, as in cultured butter, in our gut, which is associated with our ear. So, in some sense, what we eat affects the bacteria and other microbiota in our bowels, which affects what we hear. So, our guts and our ear are entwined, which has to do with like kosher law, kosher dill pickles, kosher law. Like what is it? Don't boil, don't boil the baby in the mother's milk. Something like that. Like what you eat when and how. Now, I'm going to slam on that a little bit. But there's also the whole idea of what's better. What's less worser. And how they, the nomads who went around the world, who don't get mad, who always forgive. God is always like GPS rerouting. The God of gods is always GPS rerouting every microsecond. We're always doing something wrong. And God's taking it all into account and saying, okay, I'm fixing the equation. Okay, I'm fixing the equation. Okay, I'm fixing the equation. And we keep doing shit wrong. We keep taking the wrong turn. Rerouting, 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 rerouting. Root, R-O-U-T-E, root, R-O-O-T. Root, a square root. Cubed root, the Trinity. Not that the Trinity is the be-all, end-all, but it's better. A Trinity is better than an opposition, but it depends how. An opposition is usually defined as a polarity, but it depends how we define polarity. You know, to my mind, from what I've seen and read, like Ken Wheeler is the master of polarity because he's the one person who's given vision to the difference between the North Pole and the South Pole. Just like there is a difference between the North Pole and South Pole of the Earth because of the Earth's tilt. The South Pole is pointing outward. The North Pole is pointing to a point. So we talk about all these things, but like, where is that pole pointing? And when it, when that polarity changes, like, what's up there? You know, there's the whole Orion Sirius deal, which has to do with the belt. Hebrew, chi, brew. It's been 3 days now, right? Was it 3 or 4? I can't remember. This particular project story is going to end, but yeah, it is a never-ending story. But it depends what we mean by never-ending. Just as it matters deeply, deeply what we mean by forever and eternity. And it matters deeply what we mean between imagine if you lived 10,000 years. You'd know a lot of shit. but you wouldn't know as much as someone who lived 1,000,000 years, and you wouldn't know as much as someone who lived forever, and you wouldn't know as much if you live forever as the eternal, which is different. Which has to do with time, which has to do with Satan or Saturn or Kronos. I'm not going to get into that now. Hebrews. Jews. Juice. Jesus. Juicy. The English built was the English language was built. All languages were built by the nomads, the genomads, the nomads who don't get mad. Mad, 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 Mad Magazine. What me worry? Madness. Madness. I just want to make sure I'm recording. Can we see that they're trying to tell us something? You know, there was a story before the Jews. I was mostly brought up Christian, so that's my perspective. So I'm not shitting on anybody else when I say something different. You know, I'm not trying to shit on anybody else. If I focus on that, I was brought up as a superficial Christian. I am a children's Bible Christian. But even there, the truth is, it's not the whole story. But the story's there. It's not the whole story, but the whole story's there. Whoever they were, whoever they are, whoever he is, whoever she Almighty is, they've been trying to tell us and we haven't listened, and that's what this time is about. I said it before. This time, if we get it right, I mean, whoever they are, they have a lockdown on the situation like never before, or at least not for a long, 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 long time, or at least not ever here. The last time it went wrong. We can get it right. But they built all this stuff in. Seek death, and you will find life. Die to the flesh. I was going to try to build a case. I said in my building a case video that I was going to build a case. I thought it would take years. I didn't realize I was going to just come right out and say it, but we have to stop eating animals. We have to stop eating the muscles of other animals. There's an animal you love. Would you eat it? it's bad for us. But it's not just like bad for us in some sort of empirical way, like, oh, never mind the Mediterranean diet and all that shit. Though that's better. If you're a hardcore, it's like the grapes of wrath. John Steinbeck. Dude eating salt pork. It's like the worst thing you can do for yourself. Like, if you're someone who's eaten like salted pork, I mean, seriously, become a drunk, alcoholic, heroin addict, cigarette smoker, and you will be better off for it. Don't, don't eat anything. You'll be better off. You'll be doing something better for the world. I don't really mean that. It's just a point of contrast. And that comes down to the whole deal between the ethical and the moral. And lately, ethical takes priority over morality, which is good because so much of morality of the last 2,000 years has been false morality. So Hebrews, awesome. Everybody's awesome. God loves everybody, always rerooting, always loving everybody. You kill your brother? Okay, I still love you. You're the brother who's killed? Okay, I still love you. You kill your dog? I still love you. You're this, you're that? I still love you. But let's get there. The eternal God is always working for the sleeping God in time. Free will. That's us. Juice. Just. Juice. Tea. It's everywhere. Not to say that in and of itself is the being of the end, but it's the way to get there. It's a means to an end. As we become. I was looking at this. And again, I haven't read this, but I look at the pictures, and I've looked a lot online, searched my stuff. There's a good picture in here, a couple good pictures. That I think tell a good story. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Jesus walked past 1,000 to get to one. Now, the old me was the guy who was like standing in line being like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I put my place, and I was pretty sure I got my place at 1,000th in line. Till he walked past me and I realized, shit, he walked past 1,000 to get to one. Fuck! Well, I guess I'll have to show the other picture later. Blue people. Smurfs. But if we look at this image, like, what a great piece of art. I don't know who made it. Yeah, this dude, he's pretty famous in the arena. I got a few books of his that I haven't read. I've read some of it. I mean, I've read this and that, but I haven't like read a whole book. I don't understand it all. But what a great picture. What a great depiction of God. So like if we're this snake through time, this is like this image of a quote unquote God who like sees in all directions at the same time. Imagine being that. Imagine being that God. But that's what we all are, or all can be, and all will be. Who's seeing everything at the same time, thinking every thought at the same time. Like if you're a quote unquote schizophrenic, if you're a drunk who just has a raging mind, and like all these thoughts, all these voices going through your head, well, congratulations. You're actually closer to this than you think. It's just, you're not there yet. You're not ready. You're not strong enough. So just chill. And I'm only telling you because that's what they told me. And when I say they, I mean it poetically, but not just poetically. Now is such an important time. Now is such an important time. We have the ability to do Todo. T-O-D-O. Todo. We have things to do. T-O-D-O. T-O-O-D. 2D. Was there a Jesus? There's a lot of them. He said it himself. Thomas Jefferson tried to write a book, and there's a book out there you can buy called The Gospel According to Jesus, but Thomas Jefferson tried to do that. He'd cut up pieces of the Bible and paste them together, trying to come up with the exact gospel. That's the story. Thomas Jefferson, hated among some, loved by others. Loved for what he did for the country, hated for his ownership of black people. I'm sorry I used that term like I said before. There's no right term. Hebos. How far underground does the Underground Railroad go? And how far back in time does the Underground Railroad go? There were slaves in every culture. I said it before. People hacking up people. People killing fucking babies. Recently, in this day, it's been released that like if you get injections, it was like scientific. I heard it on NPR. If you get injections of like younger people's blood and you're an older person, you rejuvenate. There are people doing that shit. We need to even forgive them. Because when they wake up to who's really behind the scenes, who's been trim tabbing them. I think it was Stephen R. Covey, an inspirational guy who I was into back when I was into more that type of content. He talked about trim tabbers, and a trim tabber is like like a ship has a rudder, and the rudder steers the ship. But a really big ship has a really big rudder, and the rudder's so big that the rudder requires a rudder. Now we can think of a even bigger ship, and in a bigger ship, and it would have a lot of rudders, like a snake, or like our vertebra. But those nomads, those NOMADS, those GNOMADS, Gnomads, Gary Gnu, those gnomes, those little people, those smurfs, those leprechauns, those pygmies. Have been shaping this whole thing. And they rose from obscurity from long ago, whether Atlanteans or whatever. Never mind the idea that we're the dominant species. What happened to the last dominant species? Something else rose out of the oceans. Before the dinosaurs were extinct, mammals rose about all over the place. Not just in one place, not just some little thing. It happened like all at once, just like bubbles rising to the surface. And that's the whole idea between predestination and free will, is that when those bubbles come up, yeah, it might depend. They might, when that air comes up, when those bubbles come up from below to the surface, like, yeah, they may come up here or they may come up there, but they're coming up, and they're coming up all over the place. We don't yet know what might have already risen from the oceans. So if we're to serve the Most High, we serve the Most High principle, and we serve what's to come. We might not be around, but there will be something, whether it comes from us or something else, whether it looks like us or looks like something else, there will be something better and smarter than us. If time travel is discovered, it has already been discovered. In which case, it would have already come here. And the whole idea of tachyons, or, it's like E equals mc squared. It's not E equals mc. There's other stuff there too, but mc squared, the speed of light, squared. Which is a lot faster than the speed of light. One of the reasons why I have to do this now, one of the reasons, is because me in the future, and it might be tomorrow, or it might be 20 years from now, is saying, do this. And I'm catching my own prayer, and I'm answering it. We answer our own prayers. How do you think God answers prayers? Through us. When you feel like you gotta do something, that's someone praying. And it might be in the future, and it might be in the past. If reincarnation is real, people talk about it. People talk about all kinds of crazy shit, right? If reincarnation is real, think about it. If we reincarnate in the future, which is the way we always think, but considering superluminal speeds, we might actually reincarnate in the past. So if I'm going to reincarnate, right? If I reincarnate in the future, I'm making YouTube videos right now. In 200 years, could I, as a reincarnated being, stumble upon my own YouTube video? Or could I be reincarnated into the past, superluminally, and wake up a slave in the 1800s? Or a slave in Egypt? Or a slave in South America? As Cheech famously said once, I hope that was a fart. Some things are more important. Which also is another good point of truth seeking. If you're going to truth seek, you're going to have some bad, fucked up shit with your bowels. Carlos Castaneda talked about how the will is an uncomfortable feeling in the gut, and as you develop your will, like, it doesn't feel good. It feels bad, and it's in the guts. That huge neural network, the cowardly lion. Which is what all this is about, the bruise, the ferments, what yeasts, what microbiota we're putting into our body. Anyway, if you're a Christian, if you call yourself a Christian, I talk about that stuff because that's the culture I was brought up in, but I'm actually trying to transcend that. I'm trying to get beyond that to the bigger story, to the God of gods. You know, Jesus said, walk with me. Don't follow me. We're not supposed to worship Jesus. We're supposed to worship the God that Jesus worshipped. Jesus was God. Then why did he pray? Why did he cry? Why did he say, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it? Why did he say, why have you forsaken me? Not to mention that the three wise men were the ones who came to him in a manger. I'll get to that. A manger, anger, tough Tom. Because you got to be angry and tough enough to save that girl, to go through hell, to save that child. 2,000 years ago, it was for the boy. Now it's for the girl. It's not the age of Aquarius. It's the age of hair, Aquarius. It's the age of Agnes, Aquarius. We're going to free the women. And we're going to free the hairy women. You'll know I'm near when you see the man with a pitcher of water. Harriet. Tub. Man. Man. Woman. A man with a womb. Ha! Man. And the her mans. Or the hermamens. Because we're going to free the hermaphrodites too. What do we mean by free? We mean we're going to let them expose themselves to us. They are going to let us be curious about them. We're going to become curious about each other. We're going to look at each other in a new light. We're going to look at ourselves in a new light. That's the opportunity we have now as never before in this pandemic crisis. Others have fought bloody wars so that we could have this moment to do this. And now we have to fight this war within ourselves and overcome all of this. And it's hard. I know it's hard because I'm going through it. Like I said, I'm not a teacher. I'm a student. I'm a student giving a book report to other students, to my peers. To my peers. Anyway. The whole point of the Bible boils down to two things. Two things. Like you could really boil it down to to two things. And it's like Will Ferrell said in Semi Pro, everybody love everybody. That's the first thing. We are God. We answer each other's prayers. How else would an eternal God do it? Well, there's all the infrared and the, there's all the magic and the whoom, 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 whoom stuff. But there's also like, we get an inkling. We act upon it. When we make a prayer to receive something, we also create a debt that we have to fulfill. I'm a miserable human being in so many different ways, but this is my payment. And that's what gives me power to do what I don't want to do, because I don't sleep right, I don't eat right, I don't eat when I should, I do all these things. My body is aching. But I'm given the power to do this, to let myself be embarrassed and dirty and foul. But there's a beauty. There's a beauty. I see the beauty to what I'm saying. I see it. And so if no one else does, at least I see it. So if I'm only talking to myself right now, that's good enough. It's something to build on. And it's a debt I owe to my betters through time, who have fought wars. This is what we think of as a beautiful image, but that's because we see in a certain way. If we saw in a different way, we might not see this as beautiful. But they went all over, appealing to us, appealing to our senses, but putting in little nuggets that appealed to something else that we couldn't quite put our finger on. And then all of a sudden, we see it. And there's always more there. There's always more there. And there's always even more than the theys, the nomads, designed. If all as you had in your environment was what you had around you, you could look at something you did before and see something you didn't see that you didn't mean to do, a happy accident, a happy accident of your art, which is anything you do with your hands. Man is hand. That's one way of looking at it. Men, meant, mind, Mentos, hard on the outside, soft on the inside. The hand represents doing, and it is an amazing gift. The hand is an amazing gift. But we can do something with the way we move just the slightest movement of our mouth, just the slightest movement of our eye can affect someone. It's a spell. It's a ping. It's an arrow. We can't handle the truth. They've been all around. They put codes in everything, and it's always math, it's always health. Thomas Jefferson, which document did he write? Anyway, back in those times, typography changed calligraphy. And back in those times, there was a shape that looked a lot like it. If there were double S's, it would be like an F and an S, or it would be a shape that looked a lot like an F and an S. But you'll find in our founding documents, they also look a heck of a lot like an integral sign. So all through our founding documents, there are integral signs, calculus, Newton, Leibniz. They've been working on our behalf, and it is the greatest story never told. It's the greatest story never told. Or, I shouldn't say the greatest, but the greatest of all the stories ever told, the story being born if we allow it to be born, if it's not a dead breech baby, if it's not another Agnes, but if it's a Mary. The story that has been built to be born, it's gonna be the fucking awesomest. And if not, if that baby dies, if that child dies, if that thing which has been built over the last 2,000 years dies, we're fucked. I mean, we're fucked. The whole point of the New Testament, everybody love everybody, and tied to that point is stop killing fucking animals. Because there's all different types of Jews. The internet's full of all that discussion. Not to mention, if you take Cain and Abel, marry that story with Jacob and Esau, Cain and Abel, Jacob and Esau, do the math on that. Work it around a little bit. Who killed who? One brother brought God vegetables. One brother brought God an animal. God loved the dead animal. So the one who brought vegetables killed the one who brought animals. It's like, okay, I'm someone who's bringing God vegetables because I don't want to kill an animal. And then I'm going to kill my own brother, Jacob and Esau. They were trying to tell us something, but there was only so many of them, and there were so many of us. Also, they who work for the Most High do not deny free will. We have to choose to do the right thing. Now is the time to choose. And it's a lot less about this. It's less about this, but it is about this too. Things with eyes. It's so hard to learn to love. I've only had a taste of it. Recently, a big taste. A gulp. Knocked the shit out of me. And I know I got a bigger gulp coming. I'm not sure if I'm still recording. I'm just going to run the tape out, as they say. Oh. I don't know this stuff, I'm learning it. And I'm still broken. You're not there till you're there. It's kind of like, oh yeah, that's another good one. Dana Carvey. He had a couple good lessons. An opportunity knocks. You are number one! Because he didn't understand. You'll have to look that up. Opportunity knocks. Dana Carvey. You are number one. We've uh, we've made the middle finger a bad thing, but it's the balance point. It's what sticks up the highest. And so from now on, it should be. This is a good thing. You know, back in the day, that was the middle finger, or that was the middle finger, or that was the middle finger. Now this is the middle finger. But we need to make it good. It's the balance point. It's the high point. Middle finger. If I give you the middle finger, I mean you are number one. And there ain't no reason why we can't redefine it that way. We can redefine things. It's the highest point. By making this bad, we make the highest bad. Make it good. Make the highest good. You say, well, then how would we curse someone now? Hey, here's an idea. How about we don't? How about we don't give anybody the middle finger? How about we don't bite our thumb at anybody? How about there's no such thing as a middle finger anymore? Are we big enough as a people to cross that threshold? I was trying to think of the other thing. Oh yeah, when he played the grumpy old man. There's some old Saturday Night Live bit where he's like, it was really funny back in the day when I was a kid. But it was basically he was saying like they didn't there wasn't no gold, silver, and bronze medal. There was just a gold medal. And I think he said something like, I can't remember, but it's like if you came in second place, they put a nail through your foot or something. I can't remember. But like, yeah, and that comes back to the whole like, the whole if you're a children's Bible Christian like me, you can bring it down to 2 points. You know, love and forgive people. The hardest job in the fucking world. And stop ritualize stop ritually killing animals. Because back in those days it was a ritual. It was a blood sacrifice. Same way they used to blood sacrifice people. Same way they used to blood sacrifice babies. So through time, there's this progression of less, worse killing, of higher beings, so to speak. We stopped killing babies and we started killing adults. Okay, that's a little better. We stopped killing adults and we started killing animals. Okay, that's a little better. You say, "Oh, I don't ritually kill anything. I just eat my stuff." Well, do you eat turkey on Thanksgiving? Do you eat spiral cut ham on Easter? Or pot roast or this or that? You have some tradition of eating some type of fucking animal on some holiday. Guess what? You're ritually killing. Even if you know, you wipe your hands of it and you make other people do it. Just like me, I'm not in the military. So that's why I have to say this shit now and feel the hurt that I do. Because those dudes went out there and did what they did. Which has to do with the power of the West. The good, not even the power of the West, because the power. White dudes weren't behind the power of the West. It was those trim tabbers bringing all the shit together. Because all the shit about war over the ages, one thing that's mostly not happening today is people aren't hacking each other up. Except it still happens. I remember when I was a little bit younger, like what was it on? Was it Rwanda? I'm sorry, I'm wicked bad with history and shit, but there was those like two different sects. I can't remember, but I just remember on the news not long ago, like 20 years ago, people hacking each other up with fucking machetes. So never mind guns, never mind this or that. Meanwhile, in the bunkers beneath the bunkers beneath the bunkers beneath the bunkers, little leprechaun chipmunk smurfs are doing the math trying to be like, how are we ever going to teach these mothers to free will choose to do the right fucking thing? And I'm still asking that question of myself. For today, this was my best answer. When we make a report when we're a little kid, and we make a report for our teacher and we get an A, it doesn't mean we know as much as our teacher. When I'm in the first grade, I don't know as much as my teacher, and she doesn't know as much when she got her bachelor's degree being taught by someone who had their doctorate, and so on. So we have to be satisfied for the best we can do for today. And this was the best I could do for today. And I hope it was good enough. And I hope whatever you did today, even if it was just a glimmer of a thought in your mind, like, you know, maybe things could be better. That's a major, 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 major accomplishment. That little thought alone could change the world.